Good morning, everybody that watch me, and thank you guys very much for watching me, but it's always nice to know that there's somebody out there, even if it's only one, that you're not just talking to air. But I can do that pretty well. I'm real good at it. The first thing, I have notes and I hope that I can find them all. But the first thing I'd like to touch on is Miniver posted a vlog, and it was really good to see her. And bravo, girl, for coming out. It's hard, I know, from experience. It's real hard for me. Sorry I look like crap today, but I actually slept really well. I just got up and I slept like a log. She talked about people who are skeptical, and that kind of struck a chord with me, because I'm like that. I'm real. People who have been abused, and especially those who have been abused by the people that they should trust, their parents, have a hard time, I believe, with trust the rest of their lives, and are skeptical because frequently the hand that rocked the cradle was the hand that clunked them over the head. So anyway, I just really enjoyed seeing you, and I wanted to say that, and I'm glad that you are coming out of your shell and are brave enough to do that, because I know how hard it is. Let me see if I can find these now. I got notes about things that just don't. Oh, there's the first ones. Yeah, okay. Some of them. Someday, when I get my video camera, I should just write a list of the ones that I'm going to do, But one of them that I'm going to do is going to be about packaging. Because I had such a temper tantrum last night. I was going to cook some dinner. And it was going to be something simple, I was making some Polish sausage and sauerkraut and that. And all the packaging nowadays for someone who has hands that don't work right is almost impossible to get open. And I was screaming through the house, telling John, it's no wonder old people starve to death. Can't get anything open. Anyway. My sister called yesterday, and she wanted to know my daughter's address. And I don't know where my daughter lives. She lives down in Texas, someplace. And she was surprised. My sister was surprised that I would not know where she lived. You have to understand the story, that I had my daughter when I was 15, 10 days after my 15th birthday. I was 14 when I got pregnant. I was on the streets because, as you recall, I said I had been on the streets from 1968 to 1974. And in 68, I was 12, so that was when I ran off from home. And I had run off from home because I feared for my life. I thought the beatings that my father gave me were so horrendously gruesome. He beat me into unconsciousness on a regular basis. I feared for my life. I thought eventually he's going to kill me. So I left home. I crawled out my bedroom window one day and left. And when I was 14, I got pregnant. And when I was about 6 months pregnant, I went to church, and asked them to take a collection for me to send me to my mother, who was living in Maryland. My parents divorced when I was 9. And she was an alcoholic, and although my father was horrendously abusive, my mother was an alcoholic, so I was I was between a rock and a hard place of where to go to get some support while I had a baby. So at 14, I got on a bus with a ticket paid for by a church that had taken a collection for me, and went to my mother and stayed there until the baby was born. Then shortly after the baby was born, I came back to Oklahoma because I didn't like the East Coast. I liked Oklahoma. And when I got here, I found the authorities had been called, and they put me in foster care. And the foster parents that I was with took my child away from me and would not let me care for her or be with her. And so one day when one of them was out, there was only one of them there, and he took a nap, the foster parent father, I picked up my child and ran off. And I went to someone who I thought was a friend of mine, and I asked her to watch the baby for a couple of hours while I found a place to stay. And when I came back, my baby was completely gone because she had called the authorities. And I mean, I can understand it now because, the person that I went to was like 30 years old, and I was only 14, and I guess as an adult she thought, here's this 14-year-old chick on the street, and she's got a small baby, and I was mad at her at the time, but now I understand her reasoning. She, was trying to protect my child. And so then a few months later, I called a lawyer that had been appointed to me early in my life as a juvenile delinquent, because you do get, you get caught and you sent home and you run away, and they would catch me on the street and send me home, and I would run away like the next day, because again, I feared for my life. Every time they sent me home, the system was just completely screwy. So I never, my first foster home was when I had my baby. They should have put me in foster home early. My life might have been totally different, I don't know, but maybe not. So a few months later, I'm in touch with my lawyer every day. A few months later, the lawyer tells me that they've scheduled a hearing to terminate my parental rights. So I show up at the hearing, in order to defend myself, and they take away my baby anyway. They terminate my parental rights. They haul me into custody, and they put me in reform school. And then, I stay in reform school for a year, and then as soon as I get out, I run away again. They send me back to my dad, and I'm like, I'm sorry, folks, but this is not a good idea. Me and my dad, we don't get along, So that was how I lost my daughter. Okay, so she was adopted, and the circumstances behind her adoption are quite weird, in that the judge that took my baby from me and the lawyer who filed the petition to terminate my parental rights were golfing buddies. And the lawyer that filed the petition to terminate my parental rights became her dad. They had essentially worked together to steal my child. So over the years, I have always known that she existed. Of course, But when you have a child that is yours but is adopted, you don't know what those parents have told that child. And you don't even know if they've told them that they're adopted. And you don't know what stories they've told them about why they were adopted. And you have no control over that. Now, if they become adults and they find you, as my daughter did find me, then you have the dilemma of their psyche and their, as I told you, I'm real careful about what impressions I make on a child's mind. Well, here you have an adult who's has to be having identity rearrangement, after they meet you, because for the first time in their life, they see people or a person who looks like them or has features like them or thinks like them. There's more in family than you know. So I allow my daughter to set the limits of our connection, because I would smother her if allowed to. If I allowed myself to make the decision on how close to be to her, I would hold her in my arms forever. I'm her mother, and never let her go. But how much does she want? She says with words, that she loves me and that she wants to be close to me. But her actions, don't say that. Now, some of that, I think, is because she has issues with relationships and attachments. And I think her issues with attachments stem directly back to being taken from me when she was a baby. She was 6 months old by the time they took her from me completely. So that's why I don't know my daughter's address.